And we're back. This is gonna be one of these, eh? It's always fun, right? You start talking about stuff that people don't want you to hear about, and that's the one that goes. So we're gonna just go back here, wait for people to come on in. This is part 2. Internet decided to blink out on me. We'll pretend like it's not the CIA trying to get us. We'll pretend. Let's get into the live chat. The feds can't stop our big Canadian son. That's right. Certainly wasn't just like an internet outage. Has to be some big grand conspiracy. Because we know CSIS is definitely listening in, right? I want to play something. What do I want to play? No, I think I'll do. These times they are uncertain, of that there is no doubt, and nobody can tell me quite what it's all about. The heartbreak and the loneliness, the chaos and the fear will make even the strongest cry. I wish my ma was here. A young man on a battlefield fights for a rich man's gold. The bullet cracks into his spine. He knows he won't grow old. And as the tears come streaming down, at once his mind goes clear. The war was fought for nothing, he cries. I wish my ma was here. A lively story well in hand, a joke to soothe your soul. And when it came to arguing, she'd forgive and let it go. And when I cried, she held me, told me it's okay, my dear. And as we face these darkened days, I wish my ma was here. And as we march into the streets, as all the righteous do, we'll raise our voices to the skies. They cannot stop the truth. And as we tear their structures down, we'll raise a victory cheer. We made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. Yeah, we made the world a better place, and I wish my ma was here. That's right, John. The Queen has passed. Yeah, that's right. 2 streams in one day. Thanks, Major. That's right. Always look on the bright side of life, right? Always look on the bright side of life. We're heading into the weekend here. At least, I mean, technically, tomorrow is a work day, but we're heading into no more days of me streaming for the weekend because I've got to work. John, we clearly need to celebrate. I don't know, dude. Some old lady who was born queen died. You know, like, this is the thing. I'm not like it's not that I don't care, right? It's a world event. It certainly matters, but just like, I just don't know why I'm supposed to really give a shit about the Queen dying. I'm going to play some music. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play some music. I just did that one. I haven't actually opened up this. She was a night. Maybe she was. Maybe she wasn't. I don't think anybody actually ever met her. Like that's my position more than anything. That her position exists systemically. She is just part of a system, an old archaic system of monarchical power, right? And in order to no, we're done with the article, Eric. Sorry, dude. It's interrupted. Too bad. I'm moving on from it. I just think that she's an edifice of this like old like system. And what did she manage? What did she do? I think she literally was just there, you know? So when she dies, I'm like, okay, so another one will be there, and there'll be another there that is there. And really at the end of the day, the monarchy kind of exists in England as like a cultural artifact, you know, like a monument. It's just, instead of it just being a building that stands there so that people can be like, look, in the 15th century we made this building, right? That there'll be a person standing there and be like, in ancient times this person ruled us and made laws that we had to take them seriously. And it'll be some old guy basically going, yes, I'm your king, yes, quite, right? And that'll be it. And maybe capitalism will collapse so badly that we'll finally like turn to the monarchy, right? Right? So you should read about what she did to make other country leaders mad. Plus she had those thick boy corgos. The only thing that I can point to that has had any relevance to my life about the Queen of England is that she is the reason why documentation was created during the 2008 financial collapse to be comprehensible, right? Like the quote unquote economists and the guys who have been given control of the economy are completely disinterested in letting anybody know why that happened, right? But then the Queen of England stood up and said, I would like to know what happened. I demand a 1-page document spoken in plain English that I can understand perfectly to explain to me why this exists. And they did it. They created this 1-page document to let the Queen of England know what the hell happened. And it was perfectly plain. Anybody can read this. Anybody can understand this, right? And it essentially told you about the subprime. Like, it tells you that capitalists took advantage of idiots, gave out loans that they knew were never going to be paid back, took those loans, jammed them in with other loans, and sold them to other suckers. So they created a bomb and just shuffled the bomb off to someone else. None of these people went to jail, by the way. None of these people were fucking executed for their crimes or any of this shit, right? If anything, it was quite the opposite. They were bailed out, right? So that's literally the only thing I can point to about the Queen and be like, yeah, she did that at least, right? Plus, if she lasted 2 more years, she would have broken Europe's longest living monarch. Laziness, right? She just needed to get down to that grind set, right? She just needed to dig deep, right? And find that grind set inside of herself, right? In order, that's how you smash records, okay? That's how you become a champion. You know, you don't become a champion by phoning it in, Elizabeth. You want to be Europe's longest living monarch, you got to dig deep. You know, and at the end, it just shows you she just didn't have it in her. She just didn't have it in her, you know? She just didn't believe in it. I hear King Charles is close with the WEF, supports the reset thing. Yeah, I mean, I take a look at that whole Great Reset thing, and I really think that it's a bunch of people just looking at the fact that capitalism is going to collapse and being like, well, might as well accept it. She was the United States of Britain's grandma. She was the British Betty White. Now, hold on a minute. How dare you take Betty White down a peg by comparing Betty White to the Queen of England? Betty White was an angel. who we all had the absolute privilege of getting to know. And Betty White, at least Betty White made us laugh, right? At least Betty White was there making us laugh, right? What'd the Queen do? The Queen did a lot of this. Hello, I'm the Queen of England. Like, who gives a shit at all? So, like, I don't know. Like, I look at the people who are going, like fucking Trudeau. Trudeau releases a statement. I will miss her so. Trudeau mourns the death of Canada's Queen. And I'm just like, really? Like, it was with the heaviest of hearts that we learned of the passing of Canada's longest reigning sovereign, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. She was a constant presence in our lives, and her service to Canadians will forever remain an important part in our country's history. I'm having trouble believing that my last sit down with her was my last. Like, I will so miss those chats. Like, this is a moment that is revealing Trudeau, that is revealing Trudeau as a total fucking ponce. What a fucking ponce this guy is. I will so miss those chats. Oh, I miss her so dearly, Mumsy. Like, what a fucking poncy boy, right? Fuck you, dude. How many times do you actually meet this lady? How many times? I bet that, like, they just sat quietly and just fucking... So on that side of it, I'm like on this side of it, I'm like, fuck you. Like, come on. Like, there's no way the Queen of England meant this much to you. This is all just like fucking, this is just politicking in the most banal kind of a way. Like, dearest me, the Queenest of England has failed, and now we all must move on without her glorious effervescence, filling our chambers with her hearty laughter and magnificence. Shut up. Like, you barely knew this person. And then, but then the other side of it, where people are like, the Queen of England has died, and it's the greatest thing that we can have. Let's all celebrate. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. This old lady dies, you know? Yeah, of course, Irish people having a blast. Well, because the Irish are just happy something bad happened to the British. That's all. Like, there's a rift that will never be reformed, right? The Irish and the English are never going to be like, we're buddies. Like, that's never happening. I do know that the Queen of England has pushed Canada to get the Constitution established. Well, yeah. Like, she wants the vassal states that she presides over to have constitutions so that she can rule them with rules, right? Like, that's important for a monarch. To have rules established so that she can rule. Let's play another one. Sure. Let's I'm gonna sing it high, I don't even care. This place is bubbling over, your money you can keep. Rather while away my days, dying in the streets, than spend another moment sucking up to you. You can take this job, put it up your ass, and this is what you'll do. Get fucked. Get fucked. I didn't want this goddamn job anyway. Get fucked. Get fucked. You fucked around and found out. Go away. Just go and get a job that doesn't so long as you do all the work. Slave away your better days making money for some jerk. This deal ain't no kind of life. Makes me wanna scream. Let's round these motherfuckers up and get the guillotines. Get fucked. Get fucked. I didn't want this goddamn job anyway. Get fucked. Get fucked. You fucked around and found out. Go away. Yeah, that song's kicker. I like that song. I forgot how much I like that song. Yeah. I titled this one, Get Fucked. Ode to Capitalism. The Queen was more like a Dark Souls boss. Death just couldn't get her. They just couldn't get her. Right? She was just, she had, she was using her invulnerability frames too much. She pilfered lots of taxpayer money, yeah, of course. But I mean, like, name a ruler that doesn't. The wife approves. Then that's successfully done, Nova Scotia. If your wife approves, then that's the best song I've ever written. Shoot a rich man into space, you gotta get ahead of the human race. And we're the lazy ones working at the end of your nukes and your guns. And we don't even care, bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. God let his chosen ones wander forever in the burning sun. And 10 times worse the fate for us. And forget him, worship the dust. Cause we don't even care, bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. Baptize us with rising tides, the fire will burn away our pride. And cover our sins with dollar signs, nothing, never let us see what hides inside. And fucking up, we could have done anything at all. We could have done anything at all. And you could have done anything at all. And you chose this. Oh, we don't even care, bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. Bring on the doom, we don't even care. Light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. We don't even care, bring on the doom. Light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. Yeah. You just gotta, like, embrace it, you know? That's what I think. You're gonna watch the Queen go, and then you're gonna watch someone who's closer to your age go. Then you're gonna watch someone who's even closer, right? You're gonna watch someone even closer, and then finally it's gonna be you. Maybe this is all part of the plan. This will allow King Charles the power to enter our homes and reset all our routers. Even if we have an online video game running and we were about to level up. Shit. That's the worst moment for King Charles to sneak into our home. Right? For King Charles to sneak into our home. I love that. I love that image. You know what, man? I haven't played this song in a long time, and it's because I've lost confidence in the song, and it's because every time I play it live, I'm playing it to like a crowd of boomers. And the fucking boomer types don't like this song at all. Right? Capo 3, fuck you. How do I get my... Where's my pen? Bad advice. Gotta sleep another month inside this car. The wage they pay me with don't get me very far. The chains that hold me break me down, but they don't scar. Can't even drink away my blues inside a bar. And this year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up? And this year sucks. Another day won't help that pain inside your back. The days get harder, but it's too hard to keep track. They keep you tired before your soul opens a crack. And God don't care what monkeys think about the facts. And this year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up? And this year sucks. So sit atop your pile of bones and bloody gold, and human sacrifice don't stop you being old. At least you'll die before the bomb you said explodes. We're gonna burn to death while doing what we're told. And this year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up? And this year sucks. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway. Fuck yeah. Fuck these boomers. Fuck them. Fuck all of those assholes. That song kicks ass. Anyone who dislikes this song is a piece of shit. Is a loser piece of shit who needs to go away forever. Fuck all of those guys. Literally just a bunch of guys singing like fucking Bon Jovi songs. Just like being like, yeah, living life free, bro. Like, shut the fuck up, you fucking assholes. Go the fuck away. Fuck. I can respect this. I can respect this idea that like, yeah, we should live free and like, yeah, all this kind of stuff. Like your civilization is literally creating an apocalypse. Is literally creating a straight up apocalypse. Have you noticed that we live in the apocalypse? Has anybody else noticed this, that we are living through the apocalypse and we're all just like supposed to keep going to work about it? Get a job. Just go get a job. Everything will be fine. Just go get a job. Fuck you. Go get a job. It kills me, man. It kills me. Like, literally just go continue contributing to the destruction of the species. Like, how about no, Benson? Like, how about no? Hey, AB, how you doing? It's been a while. How you doing? Hope all is well. Queen's dead. Rip Bozo. Yeah, I just sang a couple of songs that I think I'll sing in her honor, right? At least you'll die before the bomb you set explodes, right? There you go. So one more gone. Yeah. Like the Great Reset. Straight up, what the Great Reset is, straight up. Like, real talk now, okay? The Great Reset is propaganda to convince the masses to not revolt. That's what it is. The Great Reset exists as a propaganda narrative, right? To convince gullible rubes, right? Moronic children that, oh, this collapse that's happening is all part of some kind of plan. And if people stand up and fight against this obvious plan, look, we've been talking about it for so long, then they're going to be painted as far-right fascists, they're going to be painted as Nazis, right? They're going to be painted as white supremacists, right? That's what's going to happen. Because the system is collapsing. The wealthy are not doing anything to prevent the collapse. The wealthy are going to benefit from the collapse, in fact, they think, right? And so they are trying to control the collapse, and one of the ways to control the collapse is to say to the public, oh, this is all part of the plan. Sure, things are going tough right now, but you just wait. Just wait, things are going to get better, right? Things are going to get better, right? It's a way for them to buy time. It's a way for them to buy time. Because a bunch of gullible liberals, because liberals are extremely gullible, are going to be like, oh, well, the wealthy are saying this is all part of the plan, and they've been talking about it for a long time. So sure, things will be tough for a minute, but then it'll get better. And it won't. And it'll just get worse, because that's the nature of the collapse. And it'll just get worse, and it'll just get worse. And the wealthy will continue to retreat more and more into their palaces. And the only way to actually get ahead in the society will be to join the military. Or the police, which will be the same thing, right? Yeah, the Great Grind set, exactly. And they'll just keep sending into the society the same propaganda, right? That, oh, if you want to improve your life, it's up to you. You're the one that has to find accountability, right? While they take another $100 billion and shuffle it into some godforsaken war, right? I think one of my favorite takes I saw on all of this, did I put it on? I put it on the Discord. Oh, yeah, I have to restart all that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, one of my favorite takes was something along the lines of, I wish the British citizens a happy riot when their government tries to spend $1 billion burying this queen while there's a massive crisis going on. Which is exactly what's going to happen, by the way. Like, if you want the real, like, shitty take of all of this, it's that they're going to spend, like, hundreds of millions of dollars burying this queen, right? People from around the world are going to travel from all over the place, and the media is going to be reporting it as if it's like, this is the most important event of our lifetimes, and, oh, to celebrate the life of the Queen of England, right? And they're just going to be bombarding us with this, like, pro-royal garbage bullshit that we're all just going to be like, oh, the Queen of England, she really mattered to me. When, like, the only reason you know what this woman looks like is because she's on your money. And, like, like, and they're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on this funeral, right? That's going to happen. It happens every fucking time. Right? Whenever there's a wedding, whenever there's a burial, right? They spend hundreds of millions of dollars in order to do it. And the question is always raised by the people, but never, of course, the politicians. Why are we doing that? Why are we spending so much money to do this? Like, there are regular people that could use that money, right? But no, we're going to do this with this pageantry thing. It's just going to be extra now. Because Britain is undergoing a major crisis, right? That the crisis that's happening in Britain, it's not like the regular capitalist garbage where, like, you sell yourselves to a death cult that's actively seeking to destroy and exploit you, right? Like, it's now there's actually, like, the energy crisis that's going on is actually extremely serious, right? People will die over it. Like, it's very, very serious. And while that's going on, they're going to spend like $300 million burying the queen that oversaw it, right? Like, that's what's going to happen. Hey, Mark, how you doing? And so I wish the people of Britain a very happy riot. I hope that they riot very well. I hope that they take a couple $100 million out of the economy. Good for them. I look forward to reporting on it. I hope that it does happen, because otherwise I'm going to be like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is wrong with us? As like, what the fuck is wrong with white European people? Like, what the fuck is wrong with our brains? What the fuck is wrong? Like, and it's just the most childish possible shit we can imagine. Anyway. Farewell, Queen. Farewell, Caitlin Johnstone. Ah, yes. Conservatives discuss changing plans for leadership convention in wake of Queen's death. I think that that's really fucking funny, man. They're literally like, oh, the Queen died. Maybe we should think about changing our biggity ba. Why? I don't know why. Why? How important is the Queen to us? Like, do we actually give a fuck about this? The actual important news on this. Did I actually save this? I saw it. I'm so scattered right now, guys. Honestly, I'm just like a scatterbrain. Just like a total fucking... Nah, I don't have it. Look into the Queen's history of genocidal colonial orders that killed millions. It was her orders. Now that she's dead, the number one killer on the planet is Kissinger. All right. I'll take it, man. Yeah, I'll believe it. Like, she's a British monarch, right? Like, I've never actually seen the quote from her that's like, yes, let's kill those Indian people. Not in the same way that, like, Kissinger. Like, Kissinger's always has been very upfront about it. So, but I believe it. Like, I'm not sitting here trying to defend one way or the other. Oh yeah, this one I wanted to read because it's just like the absolute perfect example of how fraudulent our news media has become and how incapable of actually reporting the truth. That, like, we have to assume that we are being lied to when the media reports on things. Like, we've got to, like, check and double check and then check that check and then check those sources and then source that source and check those sources. And we have to every single time, because if you take what these guys say at face value, it's just psychotic rambling, right? So Adam Zivo, how China's propagandists bamboozled Canada's media. This is from the National Post, right? I absolutely love this article for how fucking fraudulent and ridiculous it is. The fact that this is making it past an editor or an editorial board at the National Post. Like, these guys have the credibility of, like, the National Enquirer at this point. Last week, it was widely reported in the Canadian media that dozens of Chinese-Canadian organizations had come together to condemn an upcoming parliamentary trade mission to Taiwan. Right. Because it'd be like if China sent a trade mission to Quebec. Right? However, what was missed at the time was that the organizations in question were actually members of China's United Front Network, which is tasked with influencing foreign societies to Beijing's benefit. And I love that this is reported as if it's news. Right? Like, this guy is saying this as if it's like, gasp! Gasp! You won't believe it! People who have the authority in China to say things about the nature of Canadian politics are linked to influencing foreign societies to Beijing's benefit. You know who's reading this and doing that? The people who are like, the WEF is taking over the world. Like, that's what's happening here. This is conspiracy bait, right? This is for the conspiracy heads to be like, China has an organization that's interested in influencing foreign societies? Like, yeah, of course they do. Like, of course they do. Why shouldn't they? Like, how is that even a scandal? Like, how is that even a scandal? Like, obviously a nation that has one of the most powerful economies on the planet, that has 1.6 billion people in it, that is growing in international power, has a network and an organization that's dedicated to that cause. Like, the scandal. The fact that Canadian media accidentally amplified a China-led influence campaign is troubling. Is it? Like, is it? Like, what's the complaint? The complaint is that the news media reported on what China was saying, without including this, like, obvious tidbit that, yeah, they're part of all this. Someone think of the children! Yeah, gas, Chinese people living in Canada have ties to their motherland? Inconceivable! We must do something about this. Right? It does have that kind of a vibe about it, doesn't it? Doesn't it have this kind of like foreigners are coming to steal our jobs sort of vibe about it? Journalists as well as everyday Canadian citizens need to learn how to better identify and call out Beijing's propaganda, as if this guy's not working in a propaganda rag. It's my absolute favorite. That these guys will say this shit. That it's like, this is Beijing propaganda. It's like, dude, you work for billionaires. Like, you're working for an oligarchy. Like, you are also propaganda. It's my absolute favorite, dude. Like, I'm so sick and tired of these, like, loser propagandists pointing at other propagandists and saying, propaganda! It's like, we know. Well, I know. I don't know about the rest of you. But, like, when Beijing says stuff, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, that's Beijing. That's what Beijing says, right? And I don't know why that doesn't count, right? This has become my opinion more and more on like, John, what sources do you use? I'm like, I use them all, but you have to just accept that that's what Beijing says. This Canada says this. The CBC says this. The National Post says this, right? And they're all propaganda. And the fact that when someone stands up from any of these organizations and points at another organization and says, you're propaganda, I just immediately lose, they just immediately lose credibility. It's like, of course they are. You are too, dumbass. Like, it's taking the conversation into the most babyish place it can go, right? It's taking it into a place where, like, the most unobservant, kindergarten-level brained citizen goes, Chinese propaganda? Of course it is. Like, of course it's Chinese propaganda. Just like the National Post is oligarch propaganda. Just like the CBC is Canadian propaganda. Like, it's all fucking propaganda, kids. Pointing it out doesn't, like and demonizing the fact that it's happening is just a good way to foment discontent for no fucking reason. Right? And to pretend like you're not involved in it. This current incident, isn't that great? It's an incident, right? Reporting on what Beijing said is now an incident. Okay. This story gets way worse, by the way, as we go on. You're going to love Ligandese. I'm now reading this for you, dude. For you exclusively. Because this gets so much fucking worse. This current incident began with a news story last week from the Canadian press. The article, which was syndicated across several major Canadian publications, reported that dozens of Chinese-Canadian organizations had signed a public letter, published in a Chinese-language news outlet based in Canada, condemning the upcoming trade mission. Right, because they did, and that's what they're doing. Right. These organizations argued that reunification with China was the sacred mission of all Chinese sons and daughters at home and abroad. Now we're getting to it. We're getting to it. Taiwan is an independent country. Wagga wagga down, boy. Taiwan is an independent country. Like, just completely in 5 words, this author completely just shunts aside the entire history of China and Taiwan's relationship from Mao onward, completely shunts aside 50 years of the United States agreeing that Taiwan is part of China, 60 years of the UN recognizing that Taiwan is part of China. Literally, in 5 words, this guy takes an extremist, far-right, totally outside the realm of reality, Looney Tunes position, while simultaneously accusing people who are reporting on the fact as propagandists, right? Like, this is why the National Post is not to be trusted as an outlet. That they're warmongers, they've lost the thread of reality, right? And moreover, they feel like it doesn't matter, right? They don't need to acknowledge reality, right? Because they're rich, they don't care. So this is what the rich psychos are saying. But Beijing contests the island's sovereignty. No, it doesn't. The contesting is coming from you. You're the one that's contesting whether or not the island is sovereign. China, America, Canada, for that matter, the UN, it's internationally recognized by European nations that Taiwan is part of China. And this whole narrative of Taiwan being its own independent thing, right? It's coming out of warmongers who want to do the same thing to Taiwan that they did to Ukraine. That's exactly what they want. That's why they're sending them arms. That's why they're provoking war with China, because they want to do the same thing to China that they already did to Russia, right? And if you think anything else is going on, then you're just a loser like this guy. It believes Taiwan is a renegade province that must be reunified with China, by force if necessary, even though the Taiwanese vehemently do not want this. This is actually fair to say. I'll point that out, right? Only 6.5% of Taiwanese support reunification. The Taiwanese, the people of Taiwan, are more or less saying what is happening right now is fine. That we should keep things as it is. And moreover, I will say that if the Taiwanese people vote for and elect a government that on the platform of independence and they declare their independence, I don't think there's anything you can say. Like, I actually don't think there's much you can say about that, right? Like, if the people of Taiwan actually stand up and say, we are an independent nation and we are declaring ourselves as independent, then what can the Chinese say to that and remain credible? Like, really, actually. But there's a reason why Taiwan won't do this, right? There's a reason why they won't do this. Because they know that it would destroy them, right? They know that it would destroy them. Eric says in the chat, before I forget, John, you should check out the YouTube channel Troy Parfith, where he demonstrated how Jordan Peterson's speech is actually plagiarized from Hitler and a cult of that era. Now, I've seen that. I've seen this guy. I was actually talking to this guy for a little while to see if he would come on my channel, but I think the thread of that just got lost. Yeah, there's still no. I'm not saying that it's a smart thing to do. I think that like Taiwan fighting for its own independence or declaring its own independence would be a blisteringly terrible idea, right? Like, I think it would be terrible for them, one way or the other. Like, the United States is going to do to Taiwan what it did to Ukraine, right? It's going to lead them down the primrose path, telling them a bunch of sweet lies, telling them that it's going to support them and all of that kind of stuff, and then the country is going to be destroyed, right? Like, that's what's going to happen if Taiwan actually declares its independence. And the Chinese, like, because if the Taiwanese declare their independence, the Americans are going to flood them with weapons, right? They're going to flood their area with weapons. And China has every reason to believe that this is a threat, and has every reason to believe that this is a military threat. And frankly, has every reason to believe they're being provoked into a war, just in the same way that the Russians felt that they were being provoked into a war, right? And the Chinese are going to do it, right? Yeah, they can declare that and then win a war against China. Try it. Yeah. Like, it is one of those things where, like, theoretically, I look at it and go, like, they did declare their independence. Like, I am supportive of independence movements. But, like, it's not being done in good faith, right? It's not like the Taiwanese are being like, we are going to be independent and not allow the Americans to fill us with arms, right? I think the most rational people, I bet you if we click on this poll itself, right? And this is sort of the disingenuous nature of what this guy is saying, right? Only 6.5% of Taiwanese support reunification. But okay, so what do the majority actually support? Right? Can I see it? Here we go. Prefer maintaining status quo temporarily or indefinitely. That's most people. Right? So it's not like they're sitting there being like, we don't want to reunify ever. Like, they're like, this is fine. What's happening now is fine. Like, there's peace, right? It is important. Support independence now or in the future, right? So there is a growing independence movement that is coming in Taiwan. All of this is definitely coming to a head, right? The West is psychotic enough. Like, the West is psychotic enough to pursue this. And China's not going to let it happen, right? Very, very, very straightforwardly. Like, China's not going to let it happen. They're not just going to watch Taiwan become a fucking unsinkable battleship off the coast. Like, that's not what they're going to do, right? And that's what America is trying to turn it into. It's trying to turn it into this unsinkable battleship off the coast of China. And it's not going to fly, right? It's not going to fly at all. And the Chinese have made it very clear that this is the case. Yeah, the only way it makes sense for Taiwan to be independent is to basically have America lose its ability to project its military force. Yeah, that is kind of the truth of it, isn't it? That, like, essentially what you're telling me is that while the Americans are literally creating documents and building nuclear submarines and saying we want to go to war with China, while they're literally pounding the war drums in your ears. They're pounding the drums of war. War with China, war with China, war with China, war with China. That you don't view an independence movement in one of the provinces of China, which is Taiwan, as a military threat. I think you've got a baby brain if you think that's true. Like, for real, I don't think your opinion can be trusted. Like, I wouldn't trust you to take care of a plant. if you're genuinely telling me that while America is actively fomenting war against China, which they're very upfront about, right? That they're very upfront about, that the Chinese should view an independence movement within Taiwan as anything other than a color revolution designed to give America a foothold in China. Like, I think you're crazy if you think there's anything else going on. And like, Nazi level crazy. Like, I think that you're fine if billions of people die. Kind of like if millions of Chinese people die in a conflagration, I think that you're fine with that. If that's the way you think. Right? And if you're literally sitting there waving your little free Taiwan flag, while America is literally salivating at the mouth to drop bombs all over China. And like, it's because while I'm talking this way, I really am thinking about, like, commentators online like Destiny or like Vosh, right? These liberal, like, hyper conservative losers who literally think that anything the American military does is justifiable. People do not realize, and I think this is true of the patriotic socialism movement, right? People do not recognize in America that the American flag is on par with the Nazi flag, right? Like, that they view those two as the same. That if somebody was walking around China trying to build a movement flying an American flag, they would be cracked down on. The same as if they were flying a Nazi flag. This is what people do not people in America do not recognize and do not understand about how the rest of the world views America. America is the Nazis. And they are. Like, to me, that's like black and white. Like, you don't need to, I don't need to create like a big like thing. Although one of these days I might out of just madness. Like, the Americans are supporting a genocide against the Palestinians. They're supporting a genocide in Yemen. They're supporting concentration camps along their own border, right? The ICE detention camps, the cooing of literally every government they talk to, you know? Like, America is the Nazis on the world stage. And if you fuck around with China like this, like, you're the one that's going to find out, by the way. Like, the idea that China is just going to roll over, right? The idea that China is just going to roll over is really, really dumb. Like, it's really, really dumb to believe that that's the case. China outnumbers the Americans like 3-1, just in terms of citizenry. If you start attacking China, you're going to see a military move happen in China that makes anything you've ever seen come out of America look like baby's first war. You're going to see an enlistment in military service. You're going to see something happen in China that is going to make you wish you hadn't even thought about doing this. Like, China can build faster than America can destroy. That's the straight truth of it. That the Americans are just these rapacious psychopaths salivating at the mouth to blow up everything they can possibly get their hands on, and treating them anything else, treating them like anything short of that is childish. The Americans are extremely dangerous, obviously psychotic. They don't care about anything. They have no worldview. They care about destruction. They care about chaos. That's what they care about. They're not interested at all in fomenting any kind of peace, any kind of diplomatic kind of thing. And so the idea that there's anybody defending America, to me, it's just like, it's insulting. I'm just like, what's wrong with your brain that you actually think that these overt, psychotic, like narcissistic, crazed lunatics are going to do anything but continue acting that way, right? Yeah, people are confused and think that China only makes plastic toys and buckets from dollar store, and they still do, but their capability has increased dramatically in all areas. Well, and like, China's capabilities are growing exponentially, and I think the thing that is really scary for the Nazis, for the Americans, is that there is going to be a moment when China is going to be unassailable, because their growth is exponential, right? Chinese growth is happening like it's growing exponentially, like it's doubling every year, and America is like, it's not interested in keeping up. It's interested in enriching a small group of narcissists, right? And so it's going to fail, because the system is structured to fail, which we all know, right? Like, if you're a Marxist, you understand that capitalism fails. That by design, it's structured to destroy itself. And while, like, when people do crimes in China, like when high level, like, just the other day I read an article that was saying that China executed another billionaire for insider trading. That's what he did. That's all he did, is he did some insider trading, right? And they executed him for it. And it's like, you do insider trading here and get caught for it, you go to jail for 6 months and like have your hand patted the whole time, like Martha Stewart did, right? Or if you do insider trading and you're in Congress, you just get away with it, right? Nobody even tries to charge you with a crime, right? So like, our system is corrupt to the core, and can't actually be reformed or changed. And so China is this massive, massive threat because it's a system that actually works. And it's a system that's actually working to actually benefit the citizenry and actually build a society and actually create stuff and make stuff and build, right? If the shit that was happening in China was happening in North America right now, we would be going crazy for it. We would be like waving the flag and saying that we're the greatest country on the planet. Like if the shit that was happening in China was happening here. And we just like ignore it. We completely ignore it. Like because we can't actually acknowledge that it exists, because if we acknowledged it existed, then we'd have to acknowledge how bad we're fucking up as a people, and how shitty we've become, and how terrible we build nothing. Like we build nothing. The only thing we build is bombs. Like we don't build infrastructure. We don't build roads. We don't build rail. We don't build power grids. We build nothing. And every single time we build anything, it's a grift. Like fucking Tesla's Hyperloop shit. It's just a grift. Yeah, it took me a long time to come around and realize that America are actually the Nazis. They have done worse. I mean, they've certainly done more. Like, they've certainly done more. Because America's been around longer than the Nazis, right? The Nazis were taking notes from the Americans. I think one of my favorite things that I saw about the Nazis is that they were looking at American segregation and taking notes from American segregation for how to treat the Jews, right? And the conclusion that the Nazis came to is that the way that the Americans were treating black people went too far, right? Like that was the opinion of the Nazis, that it just went too far. Like you know you're a shitty people when the Nazis are saying that's a bit much, right? That's a bit much. Liberals drive me fucking crazy, man. Like liberals drive me crazy. Conservatives I at least understand, right? Their position is at least like coherent in its selfishness, right? It's just a baby going, no, it's mine. That's it. That's conservatism from start to finish, right? That they babble on and they make all kinds of excuses, but at the end of the day, their position is, fuck you, I got mine. That's it. That's their whole position. Liberals pretend like they actually are doing good. They actually pretend like they care about other people, right? Like, so in this way, they're actually much more conniving. They're much more sinister and duplicitous because they're trying to convince people that they care when they don't, obviously don't. That they're just trying to get in close so they can stab you in the back with the dagger. That's what being a liberal is, right? There's nothing good about being a liberal. You're just and you're just deluding yourself, right? If you're actually voting for these guys, right, you're just living in a delusional space where you're pretending as though we're good. At least we're better than the conservatives, right? Are you? Right? Like the conservative will come at you with the bat and like be swinging it at you, right? But the liberal tries to get in nice and close so it can get the dagger in the back, right? Do you have a sword? Not on my fingertips, Eric. Not like right in front of me right now. But I could probably dig it up. But you could probably dig it up too. So when I see this shit, right? When I see this fucking article, going finally back to where this all started, right? China has spent decades isolating Taiwan and obstructing visits by foreign leaders to the island nation. Yeah, because it's a province of China. It'd be like sending a delegation to Texas. Like, this guy has baby brain rot. Beijing has warned that Canada will face forceful measures if parliamentarians proceed with their upcoming trip, which will follow on the heels of the highly publicized visit to Taiwan by U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi in August, and other recent visits by American politicians, all of which have been condemned by China. Yeah, because you're sending a delegation to a province of China and making statements like Taiwan is an independent country, which is obviously a provocation of war. Like, if China started sending delegations to Florida and started saying Florida is an independent country, how would you react? It's the same fucking thing. It's the same fucking thing. For this reason, the letter condemning the Taiwanese trade mission ought to have been viewed with a little bit more skepticism, especially since the letter's verbiage and the statements made by its signatories suspiciously mirrored Beijing's talking points. Yeah, like, Taiwan is part of China, what America has been saying this whole fucking time, right? What Canada has been saying this whole fucking time. Not your weird little fringy position that your oligarch bosses want to say, because they probably have stocks in weapons, right? So they want to sell a bunch of weapons to Taiwan and watch China blow itself up and then make a whole bunch of money selling weapons to both sides. That's what they want to do. Instead, much real estate in the news story was given to quoting the letter's backers. For example, David Choi, National Executive Chair for the National Congress of Chinese Canadians, which has a long history of pro-China advocacy, said Canada should pause and think and back off from being a cheerleader for the US. What is this but just naming names for Nazis to go and harass? What is this except that? Right? That's what this is. This is Adam, Adam Azoff or Adam Zivo, right? Sorry, guys. Just naming names so that the Nazis know who to go and harass, right? That's what this is. He's like, this is a Nazi article. What we're seeing is a far-right extremist position taken by a far-right fascist newspaper that's happily making statements like Taiwan is not part of China, while also naming names for their Nazis to go and fight. Like, that's clearly what this is, right? Anytime the media starts to pound the drum of this kind of rhetoric, there is always an increase of violence towards Asian Canadians. It happens every single time, right? And what is this except that? Except being done nakedly, right? Like, that's what this is. Like, it's just being nakedly done so that anyone can see it. Taiwan is not part of China. When it obviously is, you kooky far-right loser. And for example, David Choi, well, where do you think the Nazis are going to focus now? The story also referred to a story published in the China Daily, which is owned by the Chinese government, in which Choi was quoted as saying Canada's 1.8 million Chinese Canadian would be disgusted if Taiwan was used as a pawn in conflict. Yeah, I would be disgusted, right? I'm disgusted at this guy for pretending as though anything else is going on. Choi did not explain how he could speak on behalf of the entire Chinese Canadian community, but no matter. What are you fucking talking about? He's the what? You said he was the president? The National Executive Chair for the National Congress of Chinese Canadians. Like, come on, dude. Grow up. This is just baby talk now. This is just like baby babble. China's state media has been using comments such as his to create a fantasy land, wherein all Chinese Canadians aggressively oppose Taiwanese independence, a major domestic propaganda win. Do you have evidence to the contrary? Like, here's the head of a fairly well-established organization, right, that exists. He's the National Executive Chair for the National Congress of Chinese Canadians, right, releasing a statement, and you're standing there going, aha, not all Chinese. Okay, where's your evidence? Oh, you don't have any? Because you're a Nazi. My bad. When Pai Fang-hu, honorary president of the Richmond, BC-based Peace and Development Forum of Canada, was quoting as saying that the anti-Taiwan letter was arranged simply because we still have feelings for our country of origin and the hometowns we grew up in. Yeah, makes sense. And that it was sad to see Taiwanese and Chinese argue with each other. Hugh's narrative was cute, but it's too bad that the main organizations behind the letter have been verified as members of Chinese United Front. Like, who cares? I'm sorry, man. Like, who cares about this? The only people who care about this are fucking Nazis, right? Like, we shouldn't have good relations with other countries. We shouldn't have good relations with other nations. We shouldn't allow immigrants from those nations to hope that things go well in our relations between the country that they're living in and their country of origin. Like that's straight up what this is saying. That like if and this whole thing is just like as condescending and like asinine as you could possibly get. Like the only person who could read this and not have their stomach churn is literally a fascist. Like just straight up somebody who's like, yeah, I can't wait to kill those fucking Chinese people, right? They would probably not use the phrase Chinese people, right? The United Front is a network of Beijing-controlled organizations that collectively allow China to engage in extensive influence campaigns that compromise politicians, business leaders, academics throughout the world. Yeah, because we don't do that, right? We don't have organizations that are designed to influence people and to negotiate with people. Like, what's the accusation here, right? They have an organization to talk to people. I can't believe it. They have an organization that exists so that they can talk to people. Like, this is the danger, right? America's literally building nuclear submarines in the South China Sea. And the danger that I'm supposed to shake my booties in because of China is that they have organizations that talk to people. Like, you're seeing how Nazi we are. You're seeing the Nazism crack forward. That, like, we're supposed to be afraid of talking. Like, this is overt mask-off fascism. These networks also harass dissidents and human rights activists. Harass, well-chosen word. For example, United Front groups have on several occasions intimidated Tibetan and Uyghur activists, so CIA agents, right, speaking on Canadian campuses. At Hamilton McMaster University, Chinese students anonymously expressed fear. Let's actually take a look at the link. Beijing group, student group with links to Beijing banned from McMaster. Oh, okay. Nothing fucking fascist about that. Has revoked permission. Yeah, blah, blah. Oh, disrupted a talk by a Uyghur activist. So a CIA agent, right? Like, just uncritically, just putting forward that the CIA is right. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service, which believes that Canada is an attractive and permissive target for Chinese interference, has identified United Front as a threat that must be reduced. Right? Like, we can't actually talk. Negotiating is bad. Like, are you seeing it? Are you seeing how it's happening? Are you seeing what's happening? That we lack the capacity as a people to have credible discussions and to engage negotiatively. We are so tiny-brained and illiterate and incapable that we're afraid of fucking student groups. We're afraid of people who are literally talking, because we would prefer to throw our chips in with the largest terrorist organization on the planet. That's the CIA, right? We would prefer to back the overt crazed CIA over fucking literal students. Like, this is who we are. Welcome to Canada. But it's not always easy to know which organizations are part of the United Front. But no, this is the Nazi position, right? The Nazi position is that they all will be. That if you get a group of Chinese people together, you'll just say they're part of the United Front. That's what Nazis do. So expect it. Joanne Chu, author of China Unbound, a widely celebrated book that examines China's influence campaigns — I bet you this is just a CIA propaganda piece — says these organizations use language barriers to conceal their affiliations. The Chinese versions of their website, made for Chinese-speaking audiences, often very plainly boast of the organization's connections with the Chinese government, while the language in English tends to be generic and emphasize cultural activities. Yeah, because they know they're operating with Nazis, right? Like, we're Nazis, right? If I'm a Chinese person, I'm for sure going to be like, yeah, we're trying to create diplomacy with China, and we're hoping that we can act peacefully amongst nations, right? And for the good of everybody. But when it comes time to talking to the Nazis, yeah, you don't necessarily want to reveal that because you end up with fucking Adam Azoff here, fucking pretending like it's all a scandal, right? Like, who is scandalized by the fact that there's a student group that has ties to Beijing who wants to talk to people about it? Who's scandalized by that? Who's affronted by that? Who's offended by that? Is it normal people? Because in my view, what a normal person would say is, oh, here's a student group that has ties to the Beijing government, to the Communist Party of China. I don't know anything about that, because I don't, because I'm a normal person. Oh, maybe I should talk to them, see what they have to say. What are they doing here? Who, and maybe we could have like positive relations with one another. That to me would be a normal thing to do, right? But what these guys are basically saying is talking to people is dangerous. Learning about other cultures is dangerous. If we learn about China, it's dangerous. Right? It can be hard to show that government connections necessarily amount to propaganda work. In this case, however, there is no ambiguity. In 2017, the Chinese government published a document that literally listed out which international organizations were part of its United Front network. And then in 2018, it published another document listing agents being sent abroad to do combat for socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, act on behalf of Comrade Xi Jinping. Yeah, talking. Like talking. That, like literally as I'm reading this, it's becoming so obvious that what we are scared of is talking. What are they afraid of here? What's the fear? The fear is that socialism with Chinese characteristics will find root in Canada, and that people will begin saying, this isn't a bad idea. Oh, there's some good things here. We should actually gather around these ideas and come together as a people and improve our society with them. That's what the fear actually is. That's what this article is attempting to convince you to not do. And it's appealing to the most xenophobic base aspect of what it is to be a Nazi Canadian, right? Like, you just are afraid of Chinese people because they are Chinese. That's it. And it's just appealing to that underlying bigotry and xenophobia that exists within every white Canadian. And that we're not supposed to actually talk to these people or know anything about them or listen to them or hear their side of the story. Right? Like, this is an argument for illiteracy. That's what this is. In a very basic kind of a way. Surprise, surprise, many of the organizations and figures associated with the anti-Taiwan letter were on these lists, including individuals quoted in the Canadian Press article. Yeah. So? This information wasn't hard to find. Of course it's not. They're not hiding it. Why would they? Because it's not scandalous. It's only scandalous to xenophobes. Two political consultants, Jamie Ellerton and Dominic Stewart, came across it during an afternoon of casual sleuthing and then posted their findings in a Twitter thread. While the original 2017 Chinese government document no longer exists, I was able to use the Wayback Machine to access an archived version, thereby verifying its contents. Additionally, it took very little effort to find the transcripts of a 2020 meeting of the Special Committee on China-Canada Relations, in which Victor Ho, a democracy activist and retired editor-in-chief of Sing Tao Daily, one of Canada's largest Chinese-language newspapers, spoke about the United Front's influence on Canadian media and identified many of these Chinese organizations as United Front agents. But even though these organizations and individuals have been explicitly identified as China's puppets, and because they're the propagandists, dude. You're literally saying explicitly identified as China's puppets. Like, come on, man. Like, you can't talk like a cartoon character and expect us to take you seriously while you accuse others of propaganda, right? Like, it's just not how it works. And even though this compromising information is easily accessible, because it's not compromising. It's only compromising if you're a xenophobe. It's only compromising if you actually think that a Chinese Canadian living in Canada who has positive thoughts for his country of origin is a threat. Beijing's propaganda was still presented as the authentic, though contentious expression of many Chinese Canadians. Because it is. Because why would a Chinese Canadian want to see America foment a war with Taiwan? Want to see a Nazi like yourself foment a war? Like, you're lying to the Canadian people. Taiwan is not an independent country. Even by your own fucking thing that you posted. Right? So, is Taiwan an independent country or is it not an independent country? Right? This is classic Nazi behavior. Right? The enemy is both strong and weak. The enemy is both free and enslaved. Right? Like, Taiwan is simultaneously free, but also wants to prefer to maintain the status quo. Well, what's that? Taiwan is at once both independent and not independent. Right? Like, this is classic fucking Nazi behavior. And it's being done to confuse the issues, to lie to the public, and to foment a narrative that says, first and foremost, we need to be scared of Chinese citizens. And we need to be scared of Chinese people. And the end result of this is that Chinese people in this... Yeah, it is very fascist. It's extremely fascist, what I'm reading here. That's why I'm reading it. That's why I'm bringing it forward. So that everyone can see that the National Post is producing fascist propaganda. Like, that's what the National Post has become now. Like, this is as fascist as anything the Nazis ever produced. Right? Just trying to convince you to hate your fellow man and hate your fellow citizen. Why? Because of the color of their skin or the country of their origin. And certainly don't learn anything about that country of origin. Certainly don't learn anything about Xi Jinping. Certainly don't learn anything about the Chinese government. Certainly don't learn anything about the history of China. Certainly don't learn about what has happened in China over the last 50 years. Right? Pay no attention. Right? No, fear. You've got to be afraid of all of it. Why? Because you're a xenophobe and a Nazi. And we know it. But even though these organizations and individuals have been explicitly identified as China's puppets, and even though this compromising information is easily accessible because it's not scandalous in the slightest, Beijing's propaganda was still presented as the authentic, though contentious, expression of many Chinese Canadians. It obviously is, though. Like, it is the authentic expression of many Chinese Canadians. Right? Like, it obviously is. And you hand-waving it away is just fucking racist. Straight up. It's just xenophobic racism. No debate on it. Like, it obviously is the position of many Chinese Canadians. A major Chinese Canadian organization wrote a document and said so. Right? And they're not doing it because, like, Beijing forced them to or whatever. They do it because they believe it. Because Taiwan is not an independent country. And they don't want to see their country fall into war. Because of us, the Nazis. It's our responsibility as journalists, researchers, and citizens to equip ourselves with basic awareness, to know what to look for. Yeah, it would be good if our journalists, researchers, and citizens had basic awareness. It would be good if we had basic awareness. Whose book laments the unchecked influence of the United Front. Like, unchecked influence. What are we checking exactly? Right? What are we checking exactly? And how would we check it? Right? What does checking it mean? Google Translate works really well, and in many cases it's easy to do a basic background check of these organizations before taking what they say at face value or portraying their views as representative of Canadians of Chinese descent. Although it is. Like, it is representative of Chinese... You haven't presented any evidence to suggest otherwise, first of all. However, even if journalists improve their practices, imagine journalists improving their practices. That's hilarious. Foreign influence campaigns, whether from China or elsewhere, will find ways to confound the media. I love that, like, this is being presented as if it's confounded the media, when it's straight up just the media going, oh, a major Chinese Canadian source said this. And sure, they've got ties to Beijing. We expect that. What's the scandal here? Ultimately, we need legislation. Here we go. Ultimately, we need legislation that forcibly exposes foreign agents. Now we're stepping into the true argument, into the true Nazism, right? We need censorship. We need to ensure that these voices never get heard in the first place, right? Now we're getting into the real meat and potatoes of the Nazi argument. In November, Senator Leo Sakos tabled a new bill which would create a registry for foreign agents akin to what is already done for corporate lobbyists. Creating registries for citizens. I've heard that before. Where have I heard of a government creating registries for citizens it doesn't approve of? Where have I heard that before? The bill, however, has become stalled in the Senate. Yeah, because the Senate's probably looking at it being like, yeah, we're not going to create a registry for citizens. That seems to work against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. My biggest disappointment is that there are colleagues of mine in the Senate who have defended Beijing using similar talking points to what we've seen in the United Front organizations in Canada. Like, no sense of conversation surrounding the issue itself. Just the fact that they're an organization that is talking to Beijing and also talking to us is enough. Right? That's it. What a crazy article this is. Like, what an absolutely crazy, depraved, lunatic level article this is. That, like, I'm supposed to be terrified of China while living with the Nazis. Right? Like, the absolute tone deaf, completely like, can you imagine being a Chinese citizen? Like, imagine you're in Beijing and you read this article. What do you think that's going to do? How do you think that a Chinese citizen is going to respond? Right? I know exactly how they'd respond. They'd be like, oh, these people are Nazis. That's exactly how I would respond. And I would be completely right to do so. Like, this is terrifying that these articles are being published just completely. We should be afraid of Chinese people because they're Chinese. We should create a registry for them. Like, that's what I just read. Taiwan is independent even though everyone else in the world says otherwise. Like, a major newspaper in Canada, the National Post, backed by billionaires, is publishing far-right Nazi positions. This is scary. This is scary shit. Yeah, they won't stop hating the CCP, anything that empowers Chinese people as an entity of Western dominance, until Chinese people all become their submissive coolie slaves again, yeah? I know, a discussion about another system, oh my god, yeah? The feel of how the words flow, it's like oozing off the page, yeah? I've just decided that any regular person talks to me about Taiwan freedom and dangerous authoritarian China, I just ask them if they want to get killed by the PLA. Point blank, no moral stance. You either want to fight the PLA or you don't. What's the PLA? I'm blanking on what the PLA is. Man. Oh. Yeah, and in the meantime, right, Liz Truss asked about nuclear weapons. Right? This guy's basically like, hey, are you going to use nukes? And she's like, yeah, sure. Ha, we're not Nazis. We're normal. We're the normal ones. You're the weirdos. Right? The People's Liberation Army. People's Liberation Army. I don't know why I'm blanking on this. I'm tired. That's what's happening. Yeah, I knew this. I don't know why. I was blanking on this. Like, yeah, it's totally the truth. Like, here, bud. like and articles and boink, boink, and boink. Like, we're not going to win. Okay? Like, let's forget about the moral position, because the people that we're talking to are Nazis, right? Like, they're not moral. They're captured by their xenophobia and their racism. They're captured by their fear. Let's just have a discussion about, will it work? Right? Will going to war against China work? Is it going to actually work out? And the answer is obviously no. Right? It's obviously no. Like, you got to be really stupid, like really stupid, to tell me that a war with China is going to work out for the benefit of the West. Like, it's absolutely going to 100% completely backfire in huge, massive, enormous ways, in ways that you cannot possibly comprehend. That if we go to war against China, we are going to be awakening a dragon. We are going to awaken a literal fucking dragon that is going to blow fire on us and eradicate us. China can build faster than we can bomb. China's military is not fucking Ukraine's military. China's military isn't Russia's military. China's military will absolutely fight back and will absolutely decimate what America brings. If America can't defeat Afghanistan, if America can't defeat the Vietnamese, if America can't defeat the Iraqis, it's not defeating the Chinese. And it's not going to be fucking close. Like, yeah, you might get some shit destroyed in some of the cities. Yeah, you might get some military casualties. Sure. China's going to push back, and it's going to push back harder than you've ever seen in your fucking life. It has 1.6 billion citizens that, if you provoke to war, will absolutely decimate you. The Chinese Communist Party came to power through military revolution. The Chinese are well aware of what Westerners plan to do in China. They experienced the 100 years of humiliation. They experienced what Westerners want to do to the Chinamen. They know exactly what the plans are from the West. They will fight to the death, to the man, to defeat America, while America can't even fucking fill its ranks anymore. While its own civilization begins to collapse and degrade. Going to war with China will be the last embarrassing attempt by this capitalist death cult to assert itself before it experiences its own 100 years of humiliation and just goes back to the corner of the world it's permitted to exist in as it breaks apart. Going to war with China is the stupidest idea a person can have. There's nothing stupider. If you're actually saying we should go to war with China, just fold it up. Go home, retire. You're incapable. You're unintelligent on a level that can't even be described. I don't trust you to tie your shoes properly. Yeah, the sanctions against Russia already caused massive backfire damage. War with China will end your civilization. Yeah, pretty hard to... You can't deal with a bunch of Afghans with shitty AKs. What makes you think you can take on China? Yeah. Like, China has the Belt and Road Initiative. China has supply chains. You can try to knock them out all you want, but like China's not just going to roll over and show you its underbelly. Like when Nancy Pelosi visited, I think one of my favorite things that China did recently, when Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan, they took a bunch of amphibious tanks, like literally tanks that can just cross the Taiwan Strait, like boats that are also tanks. I've never seen America produce any of this kind of shit, right? China is building technologies and moving forward on ideas that the West doesn't even have, right? The West are so fat and lazy and stupid and incompetent that they genuinely think they're just going to be able to ram their shit in there and it's going to totally work. This godforsaken shock and awe shit. The Chinese are not going to be shocked or awed by you. They're not going to be shocked or awed by your childish displays, your weird little flexing routines. Like, yeah, maybe you'll destroy some shit. But what are the American citizens going to do when bombs start raining on Miami? Well, you think the Chinese aren't going to strike back? You think the Chinese aren't going to blow up places in California? You think the Chinese aren't going to strike Seattle? You think the Chinese aren't going to try to bomb Washington? You think none of that's going to happen? What the fuck's wrong with your brain? Like, engaging with China on this level, you lose. Because guess what? The Chinese are ready for it. The Americans are not. The Americans are fat, lazy, complacent children. The Chinese have been fighting a war for 200 years. And they won. Handily. Yeah, judging from how people talk now, they'll lie themselves to the very end. I think that's actually true. I actually do. Like, I think they're just going to lie to themselves until they finally pull the trigger and find out what's what. Like, we are not capable of taking on China. Like, China is organized. And they know what the threat is. And they're not bullshitting themselves the way that we bullshit ourselves. Like, it astounds me, man. It astounds me that the West is taking this position. Because it would be so much easier and better for everyone, including ourselves, if we just went, oh, okay, so China, how did China gain all that power? How did China do it? Oh, they built shit. Oh, maybe we should build shit. Right? But that would require confronting our oligarchs. And we're not doing that. We're not going to confront our oligarchy. We're not going to actually say, hey, oligarchs, can you maybe build something? No, that's not going to happen. Right? Unless it's bombs. Right? Then we're going to build a shit ton of those. But it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be close to enough. Yeah, imagine the typical Westerner thinking they can hold the line in some ammunition factory for 16 hours a day. Yeah, come on, Western people don't have the grit for that. Oh, and also, I think there's a lot to be said about, like, there's a lot of people in the West who realize it's all fucking pointless. That post the Iraq War, like, I know for myself and for a lot of people around me, the Iraq War was a real moment where we all went, oh, this whole war thing is a grift. Like, there's nothing to it. Right? That, like, sure, we don't have, like, a big anti-war movement. Right? But, like, people aren't going, like, rah, rah, let's enlist. Right? The American Empire is having to do, like, some pretty crazy, shitty things in order to get enlistment up and get enrollment up. Because people are beginning to understand that the war is pointless, right? So there's, like, it's a war weariness, that settled in, where the American people and the Western people, like we're happy to wave a little flag and change our Facebook post to be like Ukraine, Slava Ukraine, right? The yellow and blue flag on our Facebook kind of shit. But we're not picking up guns and like going to Ukraine, right? You can find stories of some nut jobs that are doing that, but like we're not going en masse to fight a war because we don't believe in any of this shit anymore because there's nothing there to believe in. And and you compare that to what the Chinese citizenry would be like, right? Like we're literally talking about the difference between an apathetic group of non-invested, not even paying attention to it really, citizens versus people who are fighting to the death. We're going to lose. We're going to lose. And when the missiles start raining on our cities, which is exactly where this goes, maybe then we'll have a bit of a wake-up call. Maybe there'll be a bit of a wake-up call. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, the Chinese have hypersonic missile technology. The Chinese have fired missiles around the circumference of the Earth. The Chinese have satellite technology. They know how to fight this war. They know what they're doing. They're not just going to roll over. You can't shock and awe them. But looks like we're trying to do it anyway. We are very, very stupid. Like, this is very, very stupid what we're doing. And this fucking thing here just confirms in my mind the National Post is a Nazi organization as far as I'm concerned. They're calling for a fucking registry for Chinese citizens. You just saw it. That there's literally people in the House, right? A senator who's trying to create a registry for Chinese citizens. You saw it here first, kids. Oh my God. What a time to be alive, man. Yeah, what stage of capitalism is it when a green energy company like Tesla invests $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, the mining of which threatens to destroy the planet? Sometimes I think, like, what is the stupidest thing that we're doing right now? Fomenting war with China is pretty stupid. Bitcoin is really stupid. Like, Bitcoin and the whole idea of cryptocurrency is extremely stupid. And the more I think about it, and the more I look at it, and the more I invest any amount of time in it, the stupider it gets. Well, I don't know, Eric. Oh yeah, and imagine thinking you can go to war with China and assume those other countries invested in the BRI just going to sit there and let it happen. Yeah, like America will go to war with the rest of the world. That's what it's going to be. It'll be America, Canada, Europe, right, NATO, and Australia versus like Russia, China, India, South America, Africa, right, most of the Middle East. It's like it'll be like a true world war, and we're just gonna assume that all of these other players are not gonna get involved. It's Senator Leo Housakos, Eric. Let's take a look at this guy. We got a real kind of neo-Nazi in the parliament. Served as a senator for Wellington, Quebec, a member of the Conservative Party, hardly shocking. Was appointed on the advice of Stephen Harper. He was the Speaker of the Senate for a while. Yeah, he was born in Quebec, McGill University. He became involved with the Hellenic Congress of Quebec. Anyway. Yeah, don't forget the honorary area in South Korea and Japan. Well, I mean, China made it really clear in... who made the bill? He's the one that tabled the bill. I don't know what to tell you about it. I nearly died once. I'm glad I survived to see all this. It's scary yet fascinating time. It is fascinating. Like it's fascinating to watch a people collapse this way. It's fascinating to watch a people like descend into barbarism in this way. Like it's really the truth. Like this is barbarism what we're experiencing. Like here's a feel good story for you, okay? Right? Ottawa will give $650 annually to low and middle income families for kids with dental care, sources say. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau plans to announce a new measure to tackle inflation, including details of measures for dental care for low income families, a one-time benefit or low income renters, and temporary boost to the GST credit, right? So, oh look, we could do things. We could do things to improve people's lives. We can do it. It does happen, right? On occasion, we get these small little tiny flecks flicked from the table of the oligarchs, right? We get these little tiny concessions. So we can do them. Look at that. It's completely possible. Why are we going to war with China? Why are we even talking about it? Why don't we do more of this? Why aren't we focusing on this? Why aren't we focusing on things that will actually improve the quality of life for our citizens? Why aren't we actually attempting to decommodify housing? Make it so that everyone has access to food and shelter. Make that easy. Why aren't we trying to make it so that every citizen has an easy go of it? Right? Why are we even trying? No. Got to spend more got to spend more on war. Right? Yeah, how about a basic income added to our GST tax credit? Yeah. I mean, what will happen with Japan? China made it very clear when Pelosi went. Like, they did flyovers of Japan, right? They were dropping missiles like in Japanese territory. Like, they were making it very clear that how easy it would be for them to absolutely decimate Japan. Like, they made it extremely clear to the Japanese. Like, if I was the Japanese right now, I would definitely be saying no war, do not do this, absolutely, full stop. We will pull out. Like, to me, that's the only sane position anymore. Is like, if you're going to be pounding the war drums for China, we're going to be pulling out of these agreements. Like, I think that Canada should be pulling out of NATO. I think that's the only rational position to take at this stage in the game. And if I was any of these European nations, I would be like, yeah, what are you talking about? War with China? What are you fucking talking about? No, I'm out. I'm definitely pulling out of that. Right? And like that's how serious I think this is, and how serious a blunder it is for anyone to be talking about a war with China. Like, it's such a significant. Like, why would you ever think that this is a good idea? The only reason I ask is because usually a bill starts in the House of... I know what you know, bud. I know what you know. This is what I'm going to start to say to anybody who says tax the rich. Seize the means of production. Forget this tax the rich bullshit. Like, no. Taxing the rich just maintains their position. Seize the means of production. Eliminate the capitalist class from the conversation. We're seeing the outcomes now. Like, we're seeing where these people are willing to lead us. We know where they're willing to lead us. They're willing to lead us into total catastrophe. into utter decimation and destruction. We know that that's what they're doing. That the spirit of Nazism has taken hold of them, and they're perfectly happy to create registries to incarcerate citizens. They'll be perfectly happy to censor people, right? China accuses U.S. of militarizing space, which of course it is. Like, of course it is. China has accused the U.S. of seeking to militarize outer space after the Pentagon issued a new policy document which deemed space a priority domain of national military power. Speaking to reporters for a briefing on Wednesday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Miao Ning responded to a Pentagon directive issued in late August discussing possible military operations beyond the Earth. Like, it just makes me sad. It just makes me sad that instead of actually saying we could be building enormous projects. Like, you think about the library system, right? And how large a project that would have been to undertake. You could never get the library system built today. That could never happen. Because the moment you suggested it, you'd just be called a communist. And it would just get shouted down by the Nazis that run this place. Right? So you can't actually build anything. You can't actually build any civil society or anything that resembles a civil society. Everything is just like this false veneer, while the slaves scrabble around trying to buy food and shelter for themselves. Like, any culture, any edifice of culture that exists is just a byproduct of slaves attempting to feed themselves. So you get to go to Denny's or whatever. You get to go to fucking a Burger King, right? Get some slave to make you a slave burger so you can eat your slave burger and have like 5 seconds of like, Well, then you go off and sell yourself to one of these institutions yourself. And this is our culture. Like, this is who we are. And instead of saying, hey, maybe we should make a civilization where people have, freedom. And even better than that, the people who are walking around saying people should have freedom are literally just saying, we need the freedom to sell ourselves into slavery. That's really what they're arguing for. Right? The freedom to sell themselves into slavery. Like, at some point along the way, we became cattle. We became as intelligent as cattle. And we just decided that allowing ourselves to be turned into cattle was somehow beneficial to us. And the people, the owners, right? The people who own us, right? Who call us human stock, after all, right? The owners of the society have lost their minds completely, have detached from reality utterly, and are completely incapable of making rational decisions. That when things like this happen, it is only happening because this is what they feel they need to do to maintain peace in the cattle. Oh, the cattle want some dental care. Okay. The cattle are grumbling. Okay. When the cattle should be surrounding their homes and surrounding their workplaces and saying, if you do these things, we will come in there. If you go to war with China, we will come in there. Like, we are on a complete psychotic, self-destructive path. And we don't care to stop it. Like, we don't care to stop it at all. We're just going to careen into the side of this thing And history will look at us with eyes wide open, saying, how did they manage? What did they do? How did they achieve such incredible things and then destroy themselves so perfectly? Because that is the end result of all this. If we keep doing this, that is the end result of all this. Is our own self-annihilation. Yeah, don't hold your breath, oddity. Liberals like to promise lots of things. Liberals make lots of promises. All right, guys, I think I'm going to close this one down a little early. I'm very hungry. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Revolt. Rebel. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.